because I knew her before.
Glenn Ake paid no apparent attention while his 2.5-hour taped confession was played in open court. During the taped interview, Ake recited a chilling tale of what happened the night of October 15th, 1979. The accused killer said he quit his oil field job that day because his girlfriend had jilted him. The jury listened intently as Ake calmly told how he bound and gagged the 4 Douglases and then emptied his .357 Magnum pistol into their backs. When asked why he shot his robbery victims, Ake replied, "Dead men don't talk." The accused murderer finished his statement by asking lawmen to not blame his accomplice, Stephen Hatch, for the shootings.
Out of all this here, I want the death sentence. And I want injection as soon as possible. After I'd like to have a little bit of time so I can see my parents and my nephew, then I'm ready to get executed. But this shouldn't be on Steve's part because Steve can't kill nobody because he don't have no gut to do nothing with me. All that's doing was my brain, none of his.
The defense began its side with testimony from a psychiatrist who diagnosed Ake as suffering from paranoid schizophrenia. Dr. Hans von Brockage likened Ake's mental illness to a common physical ailment.
It is a condition which has been viewed in which the actions of the patient and the behavior of the patient is not any longer determined by what his intentions are, but they have become symptoms of an illness, same as a patient with pneumonia has fever. And he's not responsible for his fever. You cannot say if you don't immediately stop having a fever, I put you to jail.
This jury will hear more defense testimony tomorrow before deciding if Glenn Burton Ake is indeed guilty of murder or is not guilty by reason of insanity. Scott Wallace, News 4 in El Reno.
Whether in fact there remains a reasonable area within the city of Oklahoma City.
We're not named in the litigation at this time. I think not only the city manager, the
major concern we all have is we don't want to lose the ability to close down those adult entertainment places that are within 1,000 yards or 1,000 feet of another one. And we sure need to protect that part of the ordinance at all costs.
I hope that the people of Oklahoma understand, once again, these are not exact figures. We're continually shooting at a moving target. Any further action that would bring down the price of oil or the spin-off effects that we have from that could continue that downward trend. Any revival in our economy, of course, could cause an upward trend.
Analysts will tell you predicting the price per barrel of crude oil is like playing roulette. It's a gamble, and no one is more painfully aware of that fact than Governor George Nigh. When state officials first put a pen to state revenues for the next fiscal year, they counted on gross production taxes based on oil selling at $23 per barrel. Today the price is $18 and dropping. The state's revised budget estimates have been calculated with the price per barrel at $18. One of the state's leading oil observers believes the new figure is a good one.
I think it's a pretty good guess, but I'd emphasize guess. I feel like oil prices might go as low as 15, but it'll be a fairly temporary situation. Maybe by the end of the summer that the oil prices will start to firm back up again. So when you're talking about a year starting in June, I'd say 18 is probably a pretty good figure.
The low price of oil is a double threat to state lawmakers. Everyone knows that when the price of oil drops, so do tax revenues. But when the price gets this low, many producers just shut down their wells. No production means no production tax. And any dramatic cutback in that area could prove a bigger problem than the price. At the state capitol, Kurt Autry, News 4.
it's being investigated as a missing persons case simply because he hasn't been seen or heard from since 2 o'clock Saturday. Detectives are somewhat concerned at this point about his safety in that he's out in the weather. We don't know if he may be staying with someone or what at this point.
We did not build these bases to protect them against ourselves, against people here in the United States. And now being faced with that threat, we're having to take increased security measures to protect our facilities.
Just climb out and float behind your balloon and blow hard. Do you think that's how they move?
North Rock Creek School prides itself on teaching its students the 3 R's. Like many of Oklahoma's dependent schools, North Rock Creek's enrollment has shot up in recent years as families have moved away from the metropolitan areas. The number of teachers has also steadily grown. Since most of North Rock Creek's budget goes to pay staff salaries, the proposed budget cut would mean the school would have to dismiss 5.5 teachers or counselors. Gone would be the school's art, music, and other non-basic programs.
Essentially, we'll be able to still offer a basic education, but it'll be a no-frills education. No dessert, no cherry on top, it will just be the basic program.
Well now, said Paul to himself, I need an electric light.
North Rock Creek may be luckier than other dependent schools. Some schools don't have art and music. Those schools may have no other choice than to cut out some of the 3 R's. Scott Wallace, News 4 near Shawnee.
In this case, my client seeks a divorce from an unloving and uncaring man.
Divorce isn't always like you see it on television. In many instances, partners can go their separate ways without an ugly court scene or an expensive legal bill. That's where attorneys like Harold Pierce come in.
O-N-A-R-D, Leonard.
With a small computer and a spare bedroom at his home, Harold can arrange your uncontested divorce for about $52 plus court fees. Of course, more complicated divorces that involve property settlements cost more. Some skyrocket to $70 or $80. The couples that benefit from this inexpensive quickie divorce are ones that are filing on grounds of incompatibility and have no gripes about their financial split.
We were only married for a week, but what the deal is, the reason this is so easy is because both parties agree on the divorce. And there's no fight over any property that you might have to, divide between you, and there's no fight for a reason for not getting a divorce.
10 days after it is filed, provided your husband has signed the papers, you can go down and get the divorce.
Harold's business is not unique. A quick check of the personal columns will prove that a lot of attorneys are getting involved with divorce kits or simple divorce actions at bargain basement prices. Although this attorney is in business to make money, he is the first to admit his services are not for everyone.
There's many people out there who can't live together, they can't get along, and they don't have the money. They can't afford to go down and pay $500 for a divorce. This divorce is not for somebody who's got a lot to fight over. It's for somebody who can get along on the divorce or both parties are willing for the divorce to take place.
Side of his district, unfortunately, didn't have much effect. He's mailed 5 times since then. Side of his district.
Well, when you're talking about Social Security,
Congressman Jones weren't right. To mail 6 times in 6 weeks to people that you don't represent, I think, is going way beyond the pale of acceptable activity. And I might point out that Congressman Jones is mailing on subjects that he has no concern with at all in many cases.
By this legislature. There are things, however, that have to be considered. And with the amount of money that we're looking at cutting, I think we do have to look at particular areas of relief. And one of those areas has to be in the area of class size. I said earlier to the Senate Education Committee this year that if in fact we're looking at a 9 or 6% reduction, then I would certainly ask that a moratorium be placed on the class size reduction law.
CR 5024. The clerk will open the roll and you may record your vote. Does any member desire to explain their vote? CR 5024.
They'll set up a circuit of tracks. You know, the horses will go from one track to another. The Kansas Quarter Horse Racing Association has supported Oklahoma. You know, to get pari-mutuel, we even donated $5,000 in 1981 to Oklahoma to further their effort.
We are asking today for the pari-mutuel application for Midway Downs in Stroud, Oklahoma, which is currently a non-pari-mutuel racetrack. We're asking that this be upgraded, the license, to a pari-mutuel facility beginning in July of this year to run July and August, a total of 28 days in 1986.
take the call. Let me make a general statement. Just so that the people would understand it, why we say it's traumatic and the legislature has to appropriate. They met on December the 2nd, and
Let's go now to that session, which
the price of gasoline at the pump drops. It's kind of like spring. You see the crocus and you see the flowers that come on bloom and the fruit trees kind of bud out, and then suddenly you have this false sense of security that, man, it's just beautiful, and suddenly winter comes back and gets you. That's kind of where we are, in my opinion, on energy. Prior to that, Lieutenant Governor attended many conferences just like this. We are nearly unanimous in our request to the federal government: balance the budget, get it balanced, eliminate the deficit, get us on a pay-as-you-go. The state of Oklahoma, as tough as our economy is right now, cannot go into debt. We don't print money, we don't borrow money. We have a balanced budget regardless of how tough it is. And the governors keep requesting of Congress and the President, balance the budget.
And we've been receiving a lot of calls from people wanting to know about putting in applications, but we're not to that point yet. We still have to go through our seniority list and give all of the people that were laid off over the past 2.5 years first right at the jobs.
On that area too. Included $30 million in carryover that the department saved.
And Mr. Fulton and I have discussed.
Natural sound.
People remember how well you did something, and I hope we'll be in that area. It has taken a long time, but hopefully it has been done right, and the answer to a lot of dreams will be there, the realistic dreams.
I'm going to ask a question on the prayer meeting.
We, the jury and panel, sworn in the Deputy A class. Mr. Glass, is that the verdict of all? Mr. Wilson, do you wish me to poll the jurors? All right. We're going to set sentencing for Alvin Parker on the 27th day of March, 1985. Consideration and the time that you took.
This jury never jumped at any decision. They took their time, they weighed the evidence, and they reached their decision, and I thank God they came back for life instead of for death.
I think if we had gotten death, it would have been a message to the thieves, the burglars, the robbers, that you don't kill cops in Oklahoma County. Since we didn't get that message, I just pray to God the opposite message didn't go out.
Universities are heavily people dependent, so a large amount of our resources are in people. And to reduce them by $12 million means we're going to have fewer people.
His commitment to children. Additionally, he is Doctor of Humane Letters.
I was sitting, of course, and thinking, so beautiful a place, and then have to have a collection. Sort of makes you want to reflect, give first and then enjoy it. So we're going to pass the plates around now. Hope that you all will respond in a way that they won't have to ask me for any money.
Cases of chloracne, 7 cases of Alzheimer's disease, 6. But I would certainly hope that the press would not underestimate in this field and are responsible for establishing the medical surveillance of workers. To my knowledge, this is the first type of success.
The bodies were examined right there at the scene by the medical examiner, and at that present time it appears to be asphyxiation because the car was running. It was an older car, and the emission is apparently not real good, and the windows were all rolled up.
This one chunk, this one project we're going to let, this $23 million, gives us a pretty good leg up. We have another $18 million coming in October. We'll have about $8 million at that time. We'll be able to let another $26 million this year. And depending upon, again, the federal funding, we'll finish it up sometimes early next year, probably.
From my perspective, again, as an independent consultant, short-sighted to cut back in the marketing effort and expect the owners of the properties to pick up an disproportionate share of the marketing expense.
Friday at 1:30 for approval of fiduciary bonds.
Committee report. There are several people who have requested to speak.
The situation was not known until early February, when hotel room tax receipts for the second quarter were counted, and the Hotel Association had polled.
Farm credit system refused.
Nobody likes farm foreclosures, certainly not these Republican Farm Belt senators up for re-election this year. Their leader is Don Nichols of Oklahoma, where more than 2,000 farmers are delinquent on their federal land bank loans. More than 400 are in immediate danger of losing the farm. But some might be spared if their loans could be restructured. A new Nichols bill would force the nation's largest agricultural lender to do that.
One, by restructuring, instead of foreclosing, you don't kick another farmer off of his farm. You don't throw the land on an already depressed situation and further depress the land values.
And according to Nichols, you might salvage the account in the long run. As it is, creditors often settle for far less than the loan's real value when collateral is auctioned off. The farm credit system lost $2.5 billion last year, its first loss since the Great Depression.
So while interest rates have been declining in many sectors of the economy today, they've actually been rising under the farm credit system to make up for some of those losses.
Other farm lenders, including the federal government, are already refinancing at lower interest to tide borrowers over until the commodity market improves. This isn't the first plan to bail out victims of the farm crisis, and while past attempts have failed, so have hundreds of farms. But things can move pretty fast around here in an election year, and the Nichols